Namaste, Assalamu alaikum, Shalom, Ni hao, Buenos dias, Buenos tardes, Eseche, Aquaba, Welcoming. What up, though? This is Café Melange, week número 4, session número 3, sin sesión 1 esta semana. So, today what we have got is a story. And my intention is to share the story, and then if there's the inclination, sharing some like update business type stuff, because Thursdays are light days. So like this week is an atypical week. There's an absence of a session numero uno. Yesterday is the field trip, brief joint, and then today, this will be the day at any point this week to do business. So again, there it is. All right, now here's the story. All right, here we go. Now in this story we have a brother who is a scholar, a genius scholar. Stories and stories and stories. Celebrated. However, he's so nice with it that he becomes distant from society. He just sees all this going on. And he sees the truth and the light within his studies. So he immerses himself within it, travels up a mountain into a cave, and studies. Years and years and years. He finds answers. But with each answer he finds, he's guided to find further, to dig further, search further, study further. And that's what he does. Now, in this process, as he is immersed within the cave, up the mountain, away from society, word spreads about what he's doing. Not in the usual way, though. Back in society, there's a lot of competition, a lot of factions competing against each other, trying to do strategies and all them things to get over on each other. And some of the leaders of these factions, they start getting dreams. And in these dreams, they see the scholar. They see the hermit in his cave, studying. And they get messages. Oh, he's got some answers. Oh, he can help you out. Oh, what's going on? So they, but they know it's too much of a walk to get up that mountain. They're too busy with them competition. Oh, if I leave, what's going to happen to my faction? So, but they keep in mind, interesting. And simultaneously, additional people who are a little bit awakened in society and seeing all this fretfulness within society, they start getting some messages about the scholar as well. And they actually do that hike. They go up the mountain and visit. And they see the scholar and say, oh, wait a minute, it's actual, it's factual. He's doing it. But they can't stay long because ain't no food up in the mountain. Ain't no water up in the mountain. They say, how you live out here? He says, yo, I feed off the light. So they impress, but they can't stay too long. So they go back down the mountain, back into society, and try to remember as much as they can. Maybe sometimes take some notes and come and go back and try to do what they can righteous amongst society. And sometimes they come back up the mountain and catch some revisions, some reviews, and some additional guidance. And that's how the story goes for a while. And eventually, the scholar receives guidance that it is time for him to prepare a document, a declaration, a proclamation, a constitution for society. To help in the well-being of all beings. So that's what he does. He changes his gears from study, study, study to write, write, write. And that change up is also shared with the leaders of the factions. They start to receive that message as well in their dreams. Oh, the scholar, he's preparing a document. It's lucrative. It can help you out. Get ready for it. So the leaders of the factions, with this message, they say, we want that document. How can we get it? How can we convince the scholar to get it? So the different leaders of the different factions start coming up with schemes of how to get that document. They think of bribery. Maybe he likes women. Maybe he likes riches. Maybe he likes power. They think about some lesser and further violent ways. Oh, we'll steal it from him. Oh, we'll threaten him. This, that, and the other. They compete against each other as they prepare for that acquisition of the document. They see each other preparing for that. And they say, oh, they're going to give him this. Oh, we better up our price. Oh, we better do this. We better do that. So now even the nature of the competition is changing. And the students within society, the righteous, become increasingly aware and enthusiastic. Oh, we get some guidance. It's coming. All right. And they see the leaders, what they do, and they say, okay, scheme all you like. And eventually the document is completed. And the scholar, the hermit, emerges from the cave. And when he does, there are a few leaders of factions that came up with a particularly clever scheme. And this clever scheme was they found connections with the scholar's close circle, his family, his brethren, and those were increasingly influential with him. And very, very carefully, very gradually, in a slow motion, long-term methodology, they get ingratiated with that inner circle to the point where they say, you know what? We hear that you got this relative, this brother, who is a scholar. He's getting a document. Hey, you know what? If you can get that document, we'll make it worth your while. No big deal. And so eventually they arrive, one particular faction, actually a number of factions I should say, arrive at the deal with the family member, the brethren, the close inner circle. They say, we know the scholar is too smart to be bought out by riches, and too smart even to be bought by the most beautiful woman or women. The scholar is humble, the scholar is simple. this is what you should offer the scholar. No big deal. Give it or take it. So, as the scholar emerges from the cave, indeed, one of the members of the inner circle approaches and says, "Hey, scholar, what's that you got in your hand?" Now, the scholar only has one copy of the document, the original, and that's what everyone's vying for, because once it gets copied, oh, it's diluted. So the power is in the original. That's what everybody wants. That's the first, that's the highest, that's the most. So the member of the inner circle approaches the scholar and says, "Oh, what you got there?" The scholar says, "Oh, I got this document." And the member of the inner circle says, "Hey, I got this sandwich. You want to trade?" So the scholar, hermit, says, "Sounds fine." So he gives the document for a sandwich. And the member of the inner circle shares the document with the different allegiances of that member of the inner circle. And so the scholar finds a quiet spot further down the mountain, not all the way in the midst of society, but further down the mountain. And some of his students come up and say, "Hey, scholar, we heard you gave the document away. What's going on? You sold it for just a sandwich. Don't you know what they doing for that? You could have got so much for it. Why you do that for? For just a sandwich?" And the scholar says, "Oh, it was a nice sandwich though." And the students are unconvinced. They're like, "Yo, you don't even know." Because you know what? The scholar is a little aloof. As brilliant as he is, as genius as he is, he's very aloof from what's going on in society and the ways of the world. He's immersed in the ways of heaven and the ways of the beyond, that he knows less about prices and things like that. And the students say, "You could have got so much for that. What you talking about? Nice sandwich. What's going on with that?" So the scholar says, "Oh, wait a minute now. Don't sleep." Because the scholar goes on to explain how, in the mere reception of that sandwich, the scholar is provided with connections to the bread, the grain, the seed, the flour, the mills that provide the bread for the sandwich, the lettuce, the greens, the fields, the workers that provide just the lettuce for the sandwich. And the mustard, the mayonnaise, the hot sauce, all the elements, all the ingredients, all the processes, all the people that go into providing each of the ingredients for the sandwich. Oh, connections, 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 mindfulness, cooperation in a wee bitty sandwich. So then the students say, as the scholar goes on to explain all the connections, the details, the nature, the politics, the economics, the future, the students begin to say, you know what, we shouldn't have doubted, we should have known better. Okay. Then the students go back into the society, lesser down the mountain, and start to explain the rationale with other followers that have become increased in number. The nature of the cooperation, the nature of the connections, the nature of the future, the nature of the timeless. Ha ha. And it takes hold. However, that's not where it stops. That's not where it ends. Eventually, some of the students return back up the mountain. Now, the scholar then went up a little bit further up the mountain because he said, oh, it's getting a little bit hectic again. I gotta get some distance. I've got my meal. Let me go back up a little bit. So the students find him again and say, you know what? Come on now. You done changed things up. Yeah, we see that, but Now we think you're a little bit greedy now. What's going on with that? And the scholar says, true indeed. I had the obligation to share the document for nothing, because that's the nature of it. It's not mine to give, it's not mine to take. I am simply a conduit. So, that's just the beginning of the nature of things, and the continuing of the nature of things, and the destination of the nature of things. And that's where the story continues for the moment. So, that's the story. That's my first rendering of it. So, here it is. Business. Again, this week is an intense week. We got high holy days, Navaratri, we got Rosh Hashanah, we've got Upasada and Amavasya, and we got feast a little bit earlier. The new moon, so that brings new months. But yeah, it's hectic. It's intense. It's not hectic. It's intense. There's an intensity. So that being said, mindfulness is accordingly. There is no session Uno this week because, again, it's Rosh Hashanah. And so there's a prohibition of work within the tradition of my peoples. We do have the mixed heritage discussion group yesterday. We've been doing it for a month at this point, with an average attendance of about 3 to 4 people. And we intend to continue with that. I share a lot of like this update in the weekly consideration for on the Plurality site blog. So it's a little bit repetitive for me because I just typed it a few hours ago. So it's, but some people don't read that much as they listen and watch. So say it again. Again, it's a new year. We're beginning a new cycle of study within Tobadi Gokadao, Torah, Bhagavad Gita, Digha Nikaya, Dhammapada, Gospels, Quran, and Tao Te Ching. And in this new year, there's the methodology is to for the passages from each weekly scripture or each holy scripture each week to do just the beginning passage as an introduction of what the topic is. The continuing theme for this year, the entire year, is to do with marriage. And as I said in the weekly consideration, that might seem self-involved. However, that's what needs to be. That's what I need to be. That's what needs to be. So there's that. That also begins the unfolding, the implementation of Rojak Rostam, the community journal. There are some adjustments in terms of the formatting and the delivery of it. Instead of doing necessarily a written version of the news updates, the intention is to do that on Mondays as this Cafe Manger joint, the first session numero uno of the week, to do just basically have a list of links that have already been compiled to organizations from different communities and groups and traditions and heritages, to do a visit each of those links and to like cite highlights, headlines, provide summaries where appropriate, and provide commentaries where appropriate. We'll see. I have to even do a practice run of that, so we'll see how long that takes, how long that exercise is. But then also adjusting the written version of the thing, still doing it on the lunar cycle, on new moons and full moons, and continuing the constancy, the regularity, the dependability. Cafe Mélanger continues as is the case, and we've been doing it for a month at this point as well, with a certain regularity. Sometimes it begins a little bit later than scheduled. I'm planning, God willing, within the next 2 weeks again. I'm emerging from the High Holy Days, God willing. Doing further outreach to brethren to participate in the Cafe Mélanger in these joints. That's making phone calls and sending emails that are personal with a link accordingly, and also an invite to share just comments with the for the sessions, and links, resources, information, references, da 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 da. Also working on the live stream I've already described what the tech situation is here, and so it's still the same. We may begin actually live streaming on Tuesdays as a thing, since I'm in another location where there is Wi-Fi to the laptop, to do a live stream in that session. I'll also adjust my schedule so that I'm increasingly available at 2 p.m. Rather than rushing to get there at 14 hour in the day. We also, just by the way, because in about a month there's a the Eastern Standard Zone does a time change. We not do that. We're on Atlantic Standard Time, so that stays constant throughout the year. So just something to be mindful about that. Cafe Mélanger. Also, I'll get that in a minute. So yeah, continuing with that, I have yet to share this channel with anybody. The link to the channel with anybody yet. So we've been doing it for the month. We've got a month archives together. Have yet to share with anybody. Again, another feature that's intended is, again, Thursdays being a light day, so just doing something, a lighthearted topic. I intend to do additional amounts of the readings of other people's narratives from the book What Are You, and also seeing what kind of what kind of short stories from the mixed anthology are available. Maybe some excerpts from other books, like in our Mélanger library. For the mixed heritage discussion groups, what is the other thing? Having two of them at this point. One at 3 p.m. 15 hour, and another one at 19 hour, 7 p.m. So that the 15 hour one, the one at 3 p.m. is intended particularly for students and those who are available at 3 p.m. And then the 19 hour, 7 p.m. is for those who are at work during the day, parents, adults, additionally, and can attend the one at evening. So I'm in the process of sharing that invitation and that notice to brethren here in the Cuyahoga area. Deep deep dot 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 deep 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 dot 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 deep 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 dot 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 deep. So there's that. Oh, and also there's a format for the mixed heritage discussion groups. The format basically being this: beginning each meeting with a recitation of the Bill of Rights for people of mixed heritage. Then continuing with a topic theme. It might be just casual conversation or what people's things are, but with a conscientiousness and mindfulness of the mixed experience, the Mélanger experience. Then nearing the conclusion with when I write things down, it's further difficult to remember. That's the nature of it. And I wrote it down. So I'm going to see if I can remember without writing. There's a concluding part, but there's something else before the concluding part. And I'm thinking about something even additionally before that I didn't write down yet. But one consideration that I'm just thinking about at the moment is to have something lighthearted towards the end, so that there's a positive thing. But what did I write? That's what it was. Okay. So, having the mixed heritage, look at them knuckles, ashy. Mixed heritage, Bill of Rights for people with mixed heritage, beginning that, then having a topical discussion, and then a Q&A for people just to ask questions and for anybody to answer. Then what I'm just thinking about at this moment is having a lighthearted thing, maybe like a poem or something light to kind of wrap it up. Actually, that would be the fifth thing. The fourth thing would be the video, having a video clip that speaks something either to the topic that's discussed or something generally relevant to the consideration, something to like continue on, and then after that having something positive, uplifting towards the end to share. And again, wrapping it up after about an hour. And then after that, people can get to stay and talk. And then again, having the next session later that evening, same format. After about an hour, then have a open conversation. So that's that. And somebody asked in the convo yesterday about what we talked about in the convo yesterday about the purpose of this. And I mentioned I get into like the whole spiel about approaching the United Nations, institutional infrastructure, and our international diaspora. And additionally, that's kind of like a lot of conceptual verbiage. Quite simply, it's just what the brother. His name. It's not David. Edward, haha, Surimoto. Anyways, what he does with the Hafu community in Japan, or with one of the Hafu communities, or with Hafu brethren in community in Japan, is basically start community, and that's basically what this is about: strengthening our experience of community. Uh, Simple and plain. That's it. So that's what this is about, and building where we are. So. There it is. And so I'm also again reaching out to brethren here, and I'm considering, and I actually asked this in the discussion group yesterday about like what's a proficient way of like encouraging people to continue contact. Because like I said, we've had an average attendance of 3 to 4 people. There are a number of additional people who've communicated interest and intention of attending. Happy to do so. But even the ones who have attended, some have attended all, some have attended some. So the consideration is, again, strengthening. Ay, kachiki. The phone is going off. Sharing, or strengthening the consistency of attendance. And it's a discussion group. It's just getting started. What do you expect? But be that as it may, still consideration of what can be done to strengthen people's interest and follow through and encouragement of attending, making it relevant and beneficial, pragmatically as well as ideologically. So that's some of the work that's in process. Now, the other thing is Melange Ethos Institute, the Community Dharma Cooperative. That's in works, and I've shared that already with a number of organizations. I'm in the process of preparing a correspondence to additional brethren, just as a notice about what's going on, particularly brethren who I've been working with for a number of years, even decades at this point. This is an FYI, but at the moment, kind of laying low on the proactive side of that, of like sharing it as like a building thing. I've already sent it out and waiting responses on that front. But in terms of going even further, holding off on that. One, holding off to receive some response from what's already been sent, but also two, those I'm working on an anthology of writings that I've done throughout the years for past 2 decades since graduating from law school. Poetry, prose, communiques, letters, documents, treatises, and additionally, actually has 5 volumes. There are 5 volumes to this anthology, and so I'm in the process of completing the editing for the first few volumes. I'll say which one is since I'm at it, and I'm actually supposed to be doing it at this moment. So how ironic life is. But volume numero uno is basically a compilation of compilations. I've written a number of of poetry and prose. Um, I've written maybe about three or four, or I've put together about three or four tres o cuatro compilations of predominantly poetry that I've written through the years. I've had three or four compilations, and so this is a compilation of those compilations because I've shared this with very few people. So um, the intention with this anthology is the increased audience, and so because the audience has yet to see any of the compilations for the most part, to my knowledge, then sharing it all. All the compilations that I've done before, and then some additional works after that. So I'm in the process of editing it and formatting it. It also includes some photographs, some illustrations. Again, predominantly poetry, some prose like essays. That's volume numero uno. Volume numero dos includes a compilation of communiques, letters, brief writings in terms of treatises and things like that that describe a little bit further provide additional insight about the work that I do with spiritual diplomacy, sharing concepts, sharing methodologies, work, recommendations, consultations, and additionally in the work that I do as a spiritual diplomat. So there's some illustrations, but that's primarily the content of volume numero dos. And then volume numero tres is a compilation of documents, longer, lengthier documents, treatises that provide further in-depth foundational explanation and articulation of concepts, um, philosophy, theology, within the work that I do, but also the spirituality that I practice, and additionally, because the two go hand in hand. Then that's volume numero tres, and it has a fewer number of like entries in terms of like documents, but the documents are lengthier, so that the whole thing is actually I have a number of different files just for that particular volume because it's very lengthy and it involves a considerable amount a fair amount of editing. I'm still considering how much editing I actually do for that because it's a lot to edit. And when I mean edit, I mean editing in the format of writing that I do at this moment that I've developed through the years. Some of the writings I've done in the past have been in comparatively conventional or Western style of writing. How I write today is increasingly pluralistic in terms of from drawing and building from the different traditions of Earth, and so there's a distinct style of the writing. The verbiage, the words are comparatively similar, but the syntax is distinct, and there are certain protocols when it comes to vocabulary as well that I practice at this point that require editing to conform with where things are at this moment. So I'm increasingly attentive to that for volume numero uno. How much for additional volumes 2 through 5, dos a 5, we'll see. But particularly like for volume numero tres, where not very few of it is even nearly at the current style of writing, and hundreds of pages. Oh, that's a lot. So we'll see about that. Might just be an as is. Volume numero cuatro is the stuff that's out there. So you think what I share here is out there. Guess what? Hoo-wee, it gets out there further. And yeah, like it goes beyond the bounds of sanity and insanity, because to have the insight that a person like myself has, one has to get beyond thinking normally, thinking like everybody else does, and that looks weird to people who are in the box. So as much as the things that I share seem unconventional, this is like even like the further stuff, further out there stuff. But the reason for sharing this is for people who are such inclined to see the work product, to see like the notes, and a lot of these are just intact writings, but it may seem incoherent or this and the other. But to see what it's like to be out there, what is that about? But then to see the further conventional stuff in a clearer context of like, that's where that came from. That's what you got to do to get that. I like that's what he did. So anyway, that's what that volume four is. Volume cuatro is those writings that are out there, and it's out there, it's out there. And then it's kind of fun though. It's kind of trippy, and yeah, some of it is when I'm drugged up. Um, I don't smoke. I didn't smoke out in writing any of this stuff. Um, um, but some of it is with a certain indifference that is chemically induced on from psychotropic medication that were medication drugs that were either forcefully or coercively um, introduced to my system. So that's part of it, and then a certain indifference and apathy because of that abuse. Like when somebody when a cat is like abused and molested like that, it's like I don't give a fuck. Let me do this. I'll do that. Whatever. I don't care. Whatever. So yeah, some of it comes from that experience, but in establishing a certain amount of discipline and resilience, endurance, gambaru, coming back to the coherent realm of sentience on this earth, and being able to share the lessons from that experience accordingly and provide healing accordingly. So that's what volume numero cuatro provides. Now, volume numero cinco, what we got? So I mentioned volume numero uno being a compilation of poetry. That's the poetry that I've shared. Like I've shared it with very few people, but I still have shared it. And so in one way or another, it's gone through a process of vetting and like, okay, I'll share this. Now, some of it, a lot of my poetry, people are like, yo, this is lazy, yo. You could have done like a spell check. You could have done like some. Didn't have to have that many thes or whatever the words are. Like you didn't like go through the process of poetry, yo. You're not giving this due respect. Sometimes yes, sometimes you are. It's a lot, and sometimes it's just a matter of sharing it as it is because that's the nature of the process of creation or creativity. I'll say because creation, got to be careful about that. Only one God. So, um, anyways, my point is that all the poems that are in volume one I've actually shared before, and it's gone through a process of selection, saying, I'll share this. I ain't saying it's the best or whatever else, but I'll share this. Particularly the first joint. I'll say that in a minute. The first joint meaning the first compilation of the compilations, which is called The Lawyers, which is poetry and prose that I write when I'm in law school. There's a certain one can see the process of development, of maturing, of evolution, of spiritual path from that first one. Because there's a lot of stuff in there that I disagree with, but I'm including because it's part of my life and it's what it is. So I learned better since those days. But to see that, and for people in that experience today, to say, okay, all right, he's like that, but then he went like this. Interesting, cool. So, anyways, those are the poetry. That's the poetry that I've shared. Now, volume number cinco in this anthology is a collection of poetry and prose, because there are like writings, there are essays and letters and stuff like that that I've written that I haven't shared. That when I was looking through my notebooks, I got stacks. You can see them at the moment behind me. That's just some of them. I got stacks and stacks of notebooks. And when I was going through some of the notebooks and preparing this anthology, I was like, yo, I got poems still in here. What? What? And so these are the poems I haven't shared for one reason or another. Maybe too personal, maybe too trippy, maybe I just wasn't sharing anything at that moment, and I just let it go for years, and then looked at it and oh, there's that again. So for whatever reason, I haven't shared it. And so that's what volume numero cinco is. Anyways, that's the anthology. We'll went on and on about that. I'm preparing that, particularly the first few volumes, editing and getting it a shareable format. Now, there's additional things in terms of like completing a printed copy, and additionally, so That's where we get into the business part of it. Now, what's the purpose of all this? Like, am I trying to publish it? Yeah. Am I trying to make money off it? No. The idea is to share this with conventional society in a conventional way so that people can receive the message and encourage people to participate in the cooperation of Melange Ethos Institute, the CDC, and the work that we do. So the idea is not to make money off the publication itself. I'm content, and again, I'm content with just sharing it, um, um, and finding a reputable or legit publisher. And reputable is a charged term because people think that just means a big publishing, whatever. To be honest, I have a modest knowledge about how publishing works, this and the other. I know that there's a lot of independent publishers. I know that people can do it independently online, autonomously. So the consideration is finding an appropriate balance of conventional, mainstream distribution, but also not trying to make money off it. I'm content with having a $0 clause, zero compensation clause. But I think the publisher, to be honest, probably would not like that either because, like, we want you to have a best interest in. Because now the other thing is, I ain't going around. I get a little ahead of myself, but I ain't going around touring or doing all the promotional strings that publishing companies are known for doing. Um, so that's part of the consideration in the arrangement is distributing it in a mutually agreeable way, but that reaches the mainstream and makes it available to the mainstream. Oh yeah, and there's also the whole rights to this, that, and the other. I ain't selling the rights. I ain't saying I can't do this, I can't do that. Yes, it's beneficial for the publisher to have certain exclusivity, but anyways, the cats who are going to buy it are going to buy it. The cats who are going to pilfer it, steal it, whatever, ain't no such thing as pilfer, steal it. Anyways, particularly on this settler land or on this native land with settlers on it. But it's still shareable, and that's the consideration of maintaining that the genuineness, the authenticity of in the methodology of how it's shared as well. So that's that. There's something else. Uh, I've been at this for 40 minutes at this point. Oh, I gotta be careful about storage now too. Um, so, working on the deals for Melange Ethos Institute. The publishing is a little bit of a distinct endeavor in terms of like arrangements, but the business stuff with Melange Institute in terms of Melange Ethos Institute is securing investments for programs, and there's their number of leads, their number of uh, open conversations that are established and that are continuing. But like I say, I'm focusing on the high holy days and the intense period that we are in at the moment in the spiritual traditions of my people, um, the spiritual tradition of my peoples, um, also the anthology, and then also Melange Cafe Melange, and the mixed heritage discussion groups. That's what the emphasis is at this moment. So there it is. Keep this under 3/4 of an hour. Nice. Namaste, assalamu alaikum, shalom, zaijian, adios, chakari, sempre na esamugo, kele Wilfred. Love and peace.